Right, good morning, and thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to be here. First of all, Happy New Year to everyone who's here today. It's hard to believe we're at January 4th already. I'm excited to be here. I'm grateful for you taking your time out of your day to be here. So, out of respect for your time, I'm going to jump right in. I will really quickly introduce myself for edification of those of you who may not have met me yet. My name is Aaron Keith Hawkins. I am a author, a keynote speaker, and podcast host of two podcasts, actually. Welcome to Leadership and Unbreakable Success. My traditional career, what led me to this platform, I spent almost 30 years in leadership. I was a law enforcement executive, retired as a captain back in 2019. And now I'm here getting to do what I love, which is share with you. So let's jump right into some content today because you're here because you're interested in your goals for 2023 and what can help you achieve them with just more clarity and a little more confidence. And important of all, for many of us, is with a little bit less frustration. So the intention here, the goal of today, is to not just give you tips on achieving your goals, but doing it in a way that feels more natural to you, not necessarily easy, but feels more natural and doesn't disrupt your life in a negative way. It just enhances it. So let's jump into what we're going to do today. We're going to have about 9 key points that we're going to hit on that are going to help you achieve your goals this year. Like I said, with more clarity, more confidence, and less frustration. The first one of those is this. It is what I call claim your identity. Now, the reason I say that there's a researcher over at USC, Dr. Daphne Oyserman. She does a lot of research on identity-based motivation, and she's one of my go-to sources for this kind of information. And the main reason behind this concept of claiming your identity is because when we face a difficulty that is attached to who we believe we are, it kind of highlights for us the fact that what we're doing is meaningful and important. And let me give you a personal story to kind of highlight this example. It's a simple one, but it is a powerful one. So years ago, back in 2005, my wife and I had been trying to have a child for a while. And suffice it to say, things weren't going easily. And fortunately, long story short, kind of a miracle happened. We got this miracle pregnancy. Our daughter was born. She's 16 now, unbelievably. She's about to be 17 next month. And she's an absolute angel. And back then in 2006, February 23rd, when she was born, prior to her arrival, if you will, we were going nuts as parents. I was painting the room. We were going out buying way more furniture and baby stuff than we needed. And the parents that are listening now some of you can probably attest to going overboard and getting what you think you need to take care of this beautiful gift. And that's exactly what we did. But what happens when the baby comes home and those first few days go by and the weeks go by? And inevitably, you're getting up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning to take care of a crying and screaming baby. Now, at first, the motivation to wake up with the baby is amazing. It's oh my gosh, this beautiful gift is here in our home. But let's be honest, after a couple of weeks, what happens? We get exhausted. I don't know about you, but there were times, and I'm one of those. My wife and I our routine was probably a little bit nuts. We both got up together every time we had to get up and take care of our baby Sophia at the time. But as parents, if you think about this to the point of this number one, claim your identity, what is it that keeps us getting up? I mean, I'm thinking about it, we could just try to sleep through the rest of the night. But what makes it an unquestionable act to get up and take care of your child in the middle of the night? And the answer is it's our identity as a parent and what we believe that identity means. It's not a question. Your child needs you. You're there, especially the excitement of having a new baby in the house. I mean, that that emotion that is attached to an identity will overcome so many of our challenges and inconveniences. And that's why I have it listed here at number one, because whatever your goal is for this year, somewhere in there attached to it is a potential identity. Let me give you an easier example for this. If someone could say they have a goal this year of losing 25 pounds, they want to feel healthier, they want to lose 25 pounds. And I say that to say there is a massive difference between someone who has a goal of losing weight and someone who decides, as a matter of identity, that they are a lifetime ongoing student of health and fitness. Think about that for a second. I'm a student of fitness and health. That's who I am. That's my identity. If I believe that about myself, do I need to convince myself to do anything? No, because it's just who I am. So I would be constantly looking for the best meals to eat. I'll constantly be looking for better workouts that are going to be maybe more efficient, more help me burn more calories in less time in my fitness routine, or get maximum nutrition out of every meal I eat. That identity of believing who I am it trumps everything else, and it helps us overcome those inevitable hurdles. So number one, as you're achieving and you're striving through this year to achieve what you're looking to achieve, make sure you are attaching a personal identity to whatever you're doing, because it'll make it so much easier for you. I can promise you that. Now, number two is claim your outcome. And here's where I kind of depart from some of the guru self-help slash type people, where they say, many people say, if you want to be successful, if you want to achieve a goal, it needs to be super specific and really granular. And while I do believe we need to be very specific about what it is we want to accomplish, I also know from experience and from the people I've had the opportunity to coach and work with over the years, that when we overthink the specificity of what we want to accomplish, it can be counterproductive. Now, let me give you an example. I'm going to keep using this fitness goal or a fitness example because it's easy. And pardon me, if my voice gets a little crackly, I'm coming out on the good side, the better side of a sinus infection. Yes, Happy New Year. Sinus infection rings me in, but I'm here for you. I'm fighting through it. I'm going to keep on going because helping you is my priority for today. So back to this example of a fitness goal. Claiming our outcome, if we get too specific here, how could it become counterproductive? Let me give you an example. You have a goal of losing, let's say, 25 pounds this year, and you say, you know what, I'm going to get a little more specific with this. My goal this year is to lose 25 pounds, and I am, like Aaron said, I'm now going to identify as someone who is a lifetime student of fitness and nutrition. That's my identity. That's who I am. So how am I going to go towards and claim this outcome? How can I be more specific about it? So I'm going to say that I'm a student of health and fitness. I'm going to lose 25 pounds, and I'm going to do it by exercising on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Every day I'm going to have 3.5 meals, and I'm going to have 23 grams of protein in each meal. I'm hoping you can get my point. We can overthink how specific our goals need to be. And to be honest, most of the time, and I'm saying this about myself as much as anyone else, most of the time when we start overthinking what our goals are, when we start diving a little too deep into how specific our goals need to be, oftentimes it's because we're really just, it's easier to think about what we need to do than to do it. Does that make sense? I mean, think about it. Sometimes it's just flat out easier to plan for something than to actually do the something. And oftentimes, unconsciously, that's what we wind up doing with ourselves when we try to overthink what our goals and how specific we need to be about our goals. Most of the time, you'll hear people throw out the acronym SMART goals. And as a quick reminder, it's specific. SMART goals are goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. Now, I have a little bit of a like and don't like relationship with SMART goals because I think they oftentimes can add to the ambiguity of goals as much as they can help. And let me give you an example why. Let's run through SMART goals and show you how we can use them in a way that's better than if we can use them sort of as a barometer, but not get bogged down by them. So, starting with specific goals, like we just talked about, yes, we should be specific about uh, uh, perhaps a fitness goal using weight loss as an example. Even getting specific about a weight loss goal may not be the best way to go about getting healthy because what's the actual goal? For me, I have a target weight for myself where I know that when I'm at a certain weight, I tend to feel good about myself. So the fact that I try to manage my personal weight, I'm a big guy, I'm 6'4", but I know where I feel the best for me, where I feel the most energy. Someone else who's my same height, 6'4", they can feel the most energy at a different weight. So the specific number, the goal is the number of that goal isn't what matters. It's the feeling behind it. So don't get so caught up in being specific about what you want to accomplish just because you think it's a good number for some random reason, but make sure that it fits into something that is specifically valuable to you. To use myself as an example, I like to stay at my weight, the weight that I know is good for me because I tend to have the most energy. I don't feel as sore if I decide to go for a run. I don't feel bloated. Heck, my clothes fit better. It feels best for me from a health and self reflection standpoint. I just feel good at certain weights. Um, but getting too specific, as we said, it can bog us down. Measurable, the measurable in SMART goals, the M for measurable, yes, we need to be able to measure what we're achieving, but that can also be so very subjective. So let's stick with the same example. No, let's jump examples. If my goal this year is to triple my current income, or I should say triple my income from last year. If my goal for 2023 is to triple my income from last year. If I get overly fixated on the measurable aspect of my SMART goal, well, when does it need to be measurable? So let me give an example. If by the time March comes around, if my goal is to triple my income, but I haven't tripled my first quarter income from last year by March of this year, does that mean I failed? Does it mean that for you? If your goal is a financial goal, if your goal is a promotional goal or a health goal, at what point during the year do you need to be able to measure that you're achieving it? How do you know that? My point is, it's different for everyone. And I've seen over and over, I've had people call me, message me, say, "Oh my gosh, Aaron, I'd really like some help because I have this goal and I've been working on it for X amount of time, and I'm just not seeing the results yet." And that's fine. Sometimes, if you're setting a foundation for a business and you're building a business and you're building a network, you may not see that payoff in a financial numerical sense for a good 6 months to a year, depending on the nature of your business. If you're working on a goal around weight loss, like we mentioned, you may see a quick drop off maybe that first week or two because you're drinking more water, you're eating better, and your body dumps a bunch of fluids that it's been holding. But after that first few weeks, I've had this happen to me before years ago. I hit a plateau. And then nothing changed, even though I was doing everything I thought I was supposed to be doing. Nothing changed for a while. I felt successful when I was measuring at first. Then I hit a plateau, and then it took a while to get some more measurable results. So don't overthink the concept of of needing to measure exactly what your results are. Yes, you need to measure them, but depending on your goal and depending on the nature of your business, depending on your body type, if you happen to have a health related goal, your measurables may not even need to be looked at for months. For someone else, measurables may need to be looked at immediately and daily. For other people, it may be, or for others of you, it may be 30, 60-day increments. So don't overthink that. Attainable, this is probably the A in SMART goals for attainable, probably the least favorite of the SMART goals. And I guarantee you'll be with me when I say that, when I start explaining why. How do we, how do you even, how do any of us claim to know what is attainable? Think about that. The airplanes that we fly, and I'm booking a flight to Taiwan for next month to do a keynote. The airplane that gets me there, was that built by someone who set an attainable goal at the time they built it? No, of course not. I mean, there was zero reason for the Wright brothers or anyone else to think that it was possible to build an airplane before it was built. And this is one of those areas that, I mean, this is one of those, I love to sit around a round table and have discussions like this about what is attainable, because we don't know until it's done. So my suggestion to you is, please do not set a goal because you believe it's attainable, because you believe it's safe, because you believe everyone else has been encouraging you that it is attainable. No, set a goal because it feels important to you. Because if something feels truly important to you in your workplace, in your home life, in your relationships, with your health, if it feels important to you enough to set it as a goal, then guess what? That's all you need. And as far as I'm concerned, once you've made that decision that you're going after this goal, at that point, you've made it attainable because you've committed to it. So please don't fall into the trap of, I've seen SMART goals scare people off from things I know they were capable of. I've seen SMART goals chase people away from becoming an author because they didn't think, they didn't think they were capable of it. And they started throwing out and I empathize with it, but they start throwing out excuses like, oh my gosh, nobody in my family's ever written a book. I don't even have any friends that have written a book before. I've seen people run away from a decision to do what I do and get on stages and be a keynote speaker because they said they've never done it before. It's not attainable. It's not for me. And it makes me sad when I see that happen, because people cut themselves off at the knees before they even get started. So please don't believe in the attainable aspect of SMART goals. And yes, do we want to make sure we're going in the right direction as we're achieving something that perhaps has never been done before in your circle or in your family or ever in the world? Yeah, make sure you're going in the right direction. Use some logic behind your decision making, but do not resign yourself to only achieving what's possible. I wouldn't be sitting in this chair having this conversation with you wonderful people if I believed what some people told me about what was possible for me. I mean, let's be honest. Starting in 1995, I was a cop. I was a law enforcement officer. And I had ultimately, I wound up really having an amazing career. But when it first got out that I had decided I was going to be a inspirational keynote speaker and host podcasts and stuff like that, that just wasn't the norm in my circle of influence. So if I believed what I was seeing and hearing around me, I would never have been here. So please, I want better than that for you. The R in SMART goals, I'm going to run through these real quick so we can jump into number 2. The R in SMART goals, relevant. Yes, I've mentioned that. We already said make sure your goals are relevant to you. That's really all that matters. And time bound, that's another one it's so subjective. How long is something going to take? As I mentioned earlier, if you have a goal to double or triple your income this year, when do you measure whether or not you're going to hit that? There may be a lull from January to June, and then all the work that you put in to build a foundation could suddenly take off in June. In your second half of the year, you could exceed what that goal is. So don't overthink how long it should take. Sometimes, to be quite honest with you, sometimes there's no way of knowing how long something's going to take until you accomplish it. So yes, please um, set plateaus for yourself, set goals, time goals for yourself to look and see. Okay, I'm going to measure here and see what kind of results I get. But don't just measure the outcome when a certain amount of time goes by. Measure your actions and your consistency. I need to say that again. Don't just measure the outcomes as you go through this year, come February, March, April, May. Measure how consistent you've been at working towards what your goal is. And I tell you why. Consistency, especially early on, is going to be more important than the outcomes. Your consistency at getting in the gym every day for these first 3 months of the year is more important than, quite frankly, in my opinion, if you have a weight loss goal, I say don't even look at the scale for the first 3 months. Look at your consistency. Check off your calendar to see how many days you've hit that gym. Check off your consistency in what you eat and your water intake. How often are you meeting with a nutritionist if you have one, or your fitness coach if you have one? Measure your consistency, and the outcomes very much will often take care of themselves. So anyway, that's my take on SMART goals. I know many people still use them, but I wanted to give some insight on what I think is good about them and what could be better. So I don't want you to get stuck overthinking them. So we've talked about claiming your identity. We've talked about claiming your outcome, and we kind of did a quick deep dive into SMART goals there. Number 3, get quality resources. Whatever your goal is for the year, after you decided what your identity is, after you've decided what your outcome's going to be for this year, the next step you need to take is to obtain quality resources. Now, that leads to the question, what is a quality resource? Quality resources are the people, the books, the videos, the information sources that provide you, or that can provide you, with the recipes and the action steps you need to take to achieve your goals. Very simply, using the example that I talked about earlier, if I wanted to triple my income, well, my resources may be my business coach, or a book I'm reading on a business that I'm building, or a business that I'm scaling. Your resources could be the people in your network that know how to do, that have already done what you're looking to accomplish. Those are your resources. Going back to the fitness goal, your resources are the fitness experts that you watch on YouTube, the books that you buy, the recipe books that you go to prepare your meals. It's the personal trainer that you hire to work with you at the gym. Those are your quality resources. And there's endless ways to find them. For me, I will say, if you're one of those people, and I've been there, where you're not sure even like where to start, you may have a goal in your head and you're going, I don't even know who to talk to about this. Well, the first step I would tell you is go to Google and search. Look for a top 10 list of people that can help you in whatever that specific is for you. If it's improving your relationship, do a Google search for the best relationship coaches or mentors out there, the best books on relationships. If it's business, same thing. If it's nutrition, fitness, same thing. Make a list of the top 10 people or resources that you could use, and then do a cursory review of each one and narrow it down to a top 5 or a top 3. Because what you don't want to do is have an overwhelming. You don't want to get too much information, because if you get too much information coming in from too many different sources, if you're reading 5 different fitness books at a time or following 5 or 6 different fitness gurus on YouTube, too much information often gets people to back off. Sometimes it's easier just to nail it down to one for now, work through them, and then go to the next step. I can tell you, for me, that's how I was when early on in my earlier years, before I was doing anything like what I'm doing now. I started with just one mentor. I just needed to wrap my brain around the idea of what it meant to grow as a person, the idea of personal growth, the idea of what leadership really is, which is not, assigning tasks or managing things. It's about the people and the clarity of mission. It took me. I had to narrow. For me, I had to narrow down to just 1 or 2 points, plate resources where I was soaking in information from, and then from there, as I got more comfortable, got my foundation under me, then I expanded. So depending on where you are right now with your goals for this year, get some resources. You don't need tons of them. You just need some that feel right to you. So let me give you a personal example. Years when our daughter was in I think it was third grade going into fourth. She at the end of third grade, her teacher gave her class an assignment called a thrill points assignment, and all it was they made these like poster boards, and they would get points for doing cool things over the summer, like going to the beach. And I think my daughter had a trip to the beach, a trip to Disney, things that we had planned for the summer that were cool and they were kind of thrilling. That's what the teacher assigned for the students to do. I decided to be fun dad and do it with her. I'm like, I'm going to do a throw points assignment with you for the summer. And that's the year I started my first podcast. So on my board, I had start a new podcast, start writing my first book. And then on there, I wrote, at the time, I was doing some short runs. I was jogging as a little hobby. I was running about 3.5 miles a day. So I wrote on there that I was going to double my distance, my normal running distance over the summer, from 3.5 miles to 7 miles. And for those of you who have children, the deadpan look that a child can give you when they are completely unimpressed. So I tell this to my daughter. I said, Sophia, one of my throw points is I'm going to double how far I run. Because right now I run 3.5 miles. I'm going to double it. I'm going to run 7 miles by the end of the summer. And she just looked at me with this, and she literally shrugged her shoulders. And she says, Dad, what's 7 miles? Like, what's that going to do? If you're going to run 7 miles, you might as well run 10. So, of course, I retort and I said, well, if I'm going to run 10 miles, I might as well run 13.1 miles, make it a half marathon, and do a fundraiser. So she just looks at me with this deadpan face and goes, well, do that. So now I'm cornered, and I actually wound up doing it. I wound up running the Philadelphia Marathon, did a half marathon, did a fundraiser for the American Cancer Society. But my point to the story isn't just that I got punked by my daughter into running a half marathon. My point is that when that decision happened, when I committed to that, I had to do exactly what I've been talking about you to do so far. I had to, number one, I had to claim my identity and realize, like, okay, I can't just try to run a half marathon. I have to be a runner. And that's what led me to claiming my outcome in that context. And I had to get resources. I didn't know anything about running at distance. Nothing. The only thing I knew was when I ran 3.5 miles, I usually wound up, sore and with shin splints. I knew I was doing everything wrong. So I went out and I started looking at Runner's World, REI.com, Nike.com, Men's Health, anywhere where I could get information to help me finally learn what a proper gait looks like when you're running. I finally learned what the right running shoes for me and my size, weight, height, body style, running style. I had to learn what equipment I needed to help me achieve this goal. I had to learn, I had to get some nutritional guides because I was burning a heck of a lot more calories than I was used to. I had to decide, I had to find those resources for me so I could achieve that goal. And that's all I mean by get quality resources. So um, leverage your LinkedIn connections. Ask your friends, family, colleagues. Like I said, Google, make a list of resources to help you achieve what you're looking to achieve this year. Because the quality of your resources is usually going to be a big factor in determining the quality of your outcomes when it comes to achieving your goal. It's also going to help you feel a lot more confident when you have a resource or when you have resources that you trust and you feel good about. It boosts your confidence. It gives you a lot more clarity. It helps you get a lot more focused because you're not just randomly trying to figure things out. You're actually following a blueprint or perhaps a couple different blueprints that you're using for yourself to help you get to where you want to be. Make sense? Awesome. All right, let's jump into, we're at 11:30 already, so I'm going to keep it moving. Number 4 is what I call mind the gap and build your bridge. So once you have your resources, the places where you're getting your recipe and your action steps, then you become responsible for taking your actions. So mind the gap and build your bridge just means recognizing, okay, where am I right now? And between where I am right now and where that goal is, how far is that? And this is something I recommend to people, that you actually document this on a Google Doc, or if you're old school like me, pen and pad, put it on paper. Doesn't matter how you do it, but this is something that you want to set down yourself in visual form. So your starting point versus your end point, because then in between, you can start mapping out the action steps that you need to take. Meaning, step 1, what is the next step I need to take? And then step 2, and then step 3. What are those steps going to be for you? Now, keep in mind that you may not know what all those action steps are. You may not know which steps work. Going back to the example of me talking about tripling a financial goal for the year. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner, if you're looking to triple your income this year, you may not know exactly what's going to work or not, but you can start with a plan. That's the point of having those resources we just mentioned. When you get those resources, then get to this step where we're talking about minding your gap and building your bridge. Then you can start documenting, okay, what needs to be accomplished. Let me give you an easy way to think about this. Going back to the hypothetical person who has a goal of losing 25 pounds. Minding the gap and building their bridge for them might look like this. Okay. I'm an adult male. I currently weigh 200 pounds, but my target weight, because I know that's what feels good for me and where I want to be, is 175. So I need to lose 25 pounds. That's the distance between where I am and where I need to go. Minding the gap and building your bridge starts with, okay, let's document where I am now, 200 pounds. Where I'm going to be is 175. What I need to do in between needs to be chunked down into different categories. So for that person, one chunk or section on their Google Doc or on their pad, or it could be even a big whiteboard, might be one section might be nutrition. So in there, you're going to list out, how am I going to eat for the week? Because we all know losing weight or having a fitness goal isn't just about hitting the gym. Your body's only going to give you what you give it. So you have to feed yourself. So in one section on that document, they may have nutrition. Who's the chef I'm getting my recipes from? Am I going to meal prep every day? Or am I going to meal prep for the week? Or do I have the time and resources where I can just come home and I'm going to cook every day? What am I going to cook? Have a section for nutrition, a nutrition section. Then you're going to need to chunk down another section about your workouts. What are the actual workouts you're going to do? Meaning, are you going to run? Are you going to weightlift? Are you going to do CrossFit? Are you going to do body weight? Are you going to do a combination of those things? That's another chunk where you're going to put the actual workouts. A third chunk for that person might be equipment. What equipment do I have? What equipment do I need? Am I just going to join a gym and go there however many times a week I'm going to work out? Do I have, am I going to get things for the home? Or am I going to work out, in a public park and just do body weight exercises and using the equipment that's there? The apparel, what are you going to wear? What are you going to wear on your feet? What are you going to wear when you go to the gym? What are you going to wear when you work out at home or go for your runs? You get my point. Minding the gap and building your bridge is taking a look at where you are, where you're going to be, and then start chunking down the sections of what needs to be accomplished. Meaning, like I said, your action steps that you need to take to accomplish what you need to accomplish. The reason this is so important is when people fail to do this step and they don't write down what they actually have to do to get there, and all they do is say, I'm here and I want to be there. And they just start getting busy doing random things and changing their routine every couple days and just doing whatever comes to the top of mind in the morning. That will wear someone out, because it burns so much mental energy to have to wake up and come up with a new plan for the day. We save ourselves so much mental bandwidth by taking the time to actually map those things out by section. I mean, just think about that. For a business owner, if you decide what you're going to do for your marketing or your new next offering or offerings, if you map out or chunk down how you're going to change your pricing structure, what new market you're going to tap into, what your communication sequence is going to look like to potential customers. When you have all those things written down and mapped out and almost scripted, it's so much easier to wake up in the morning and just get to work, because you're not figuring out how to reinvent the wheel every day. You're just following the plan that you made. That makes life so much difficult. That's why people that have large and audacious goals can achieve them almost without breaking a sweat. I mean, obviously, be sweating if you're at the gym, but honestly, almost without any tension, without any frustration, with a ton of confidence and a ton of clarity, because we've taken the time to recognize where we are specifically, who's going to help us, going back to our resources. We know who's going to help us, who our resources are, and now we've just mapped out everything we're going to do to get there. Man, you can just, I don't like saying dude very often, but dude, you can just sit back and then you can just follow the recipe that you just made. Does that make, I hope that makes sense. All right, mind the gap, build your bridge, know where you are, know where you're going, chunk down the steps needed to be taken to get there, using those resources that you've just gathered in the previous step we talked about. That will make life a lot easier on you. Step number 5, take 10 times the action you think is necessary. I have a personal story on this, and before I say it, I need to say this. I'm not a massive fan of the internet quick, easy advice like, 10x your life or 100x your life. I get the premise of these things. I hesitated to even put 10x on here, but I had to explain the concept somehow. Let me give an example of what I mean by take 10 times the action you think is necessary. And what I really mean is take way more action than you think is necessary. Let me give you a story. Years ago in my career, after about 10 years or so went by, I had yet to even be promoted once. I'd been working for over a decade. I was in a ton of different specialized units. I had 7 different instructor certifications. I was teaching at the police academy. I had awards, accolades, all kinds of great stuff. Life was good. My career was good. But I hadn't been promoted at all. And what I wound up doing one day, I went to my wife, um, and I said, "Look, honey, there is oh, I should mention in where I was living at the time. We're in Florida now, but at the time I was working in New Jersey, and the promotional process for us at the time was administered by the state of New Jersey. You had to go through a testing process in order to be eligible to get promoted. Um, and there was a test coming up in the fall. I think this was back in probably May or June when I had this conversation. And I told my wife, I said, look, I've been at this job for over a decade. It's kind of do or die time. I need to get promoted for us financially, for myself mentally. It was it was non-negotiable. I had to make it work. So, and sidebar, if you have a goal for 2023, especially a big goal for 2023, please include the people or have conversations with the people closest to you about it. I see it happen far too often where people will decide to do some big life changing goal and they don't even have a conversation with it. Um, they don't have a conversation about it with their partner or their kids. It's such a great opportunity to share your goals with your children so they can see and watch you accomplish it. Talk to your spouse or partner or anybody close to you in your life whom your actions are going to impact. They deserve to be part of that conversation. I don't mean to get off topic, but please take my advice on that. So anyway, I had this conversation with my wife, and I said, and what I ultimately told her was, I need to commit to studying 3 hours every single day until this test happens. Because I had to I had to make it almost impossible for me to fail. So our daughter was a toddler at the time. So we did. That's exactly what I did. Told my wife I was going to study 3 hours a day. I did. Every single day, 7 days a week, studied 3 hours a day. Now, why? Why did I choose to study for 3 hours a day? It seemed at the time ridiculous, still does. Um, the reason why is because I knew that most people that I was in competition with, that I was going to be testing against, all of them were peers, coworkers, and I knew most of them were probably going to study about, if at all, 15 minutes a day. I would have conversations and they would tell me they may study during lunchtime or maybe a few hours on the weekends. So I decided if I just go all in and I just decide to become an absolute expert, almost lawyer-like, studying case law and statutory law, and start memorizing all these things that most people would look up when they needed to reference it, I would be so far ahead of the curve. And guess what happened? Fall came around, I took the test, I nailed it. I mean, I aced it. The second place person wasn't even close. The reason why is because I took way more action than I thought was necessary. And I could go on and on with different stories and examples, but that was a personal one for me because it completely changed the trajectory of my life. It was one of those moments where I realized one of my best success lessons, if you will, is that if you're willing to do a lot more work than most people are willing to do, even for a season, I don't mean grinding yourself into the ground as a lifestyle. I mean, if you're willing to have a goal where you're going to have to push harder from this period to this period, and you make that decision mentally, you share that decision with your family and the people closest to you, and you just get to work. It'll change the way your outcomes evolve, whether it's in your business, whether it's getting promotion like it was for me at the time, whether it's your physical health, your mental health, whatever it is. If you commit to putting in way more work than is going to feel comfortable, you're going to get way bigger results than you ever thought you could get. So please when I say take 10 times the action you think is necessary, I give you a simple reason why I think that's 10xing anything or 100xing anything can be a silly concept. Does that mean if your goal is to work out every day, you should work out 10 times a day? No, of course not. But maybe it means having 10 times the focus, or having 10 times the determination, 10 times the consistency you've ever had before in your life, right? 10 times the self care that you give yourself to allow your body to recover, eating better, not drinking as much or not drinking at all, taking those hot baths, cold baths, putting in the work to make this process work for you, it will change your life. So take 10 times the action you think is necessary, and I promise it will change your life. The next step is observe, adjust, and repeat. This is where your sensory acuity is important, meaning your ability to pay attention and see what's actually happening. Because this is where it's time to, you have to look and see what's working, what's not working, but we also have to be careful not to judge that something isn't working because it's not working yet. This is where life and success and goal achievement, it really shows that it is a art as much as it is a science. I mentioned earlier about the fact that someone can start working out, see some really fast results in the first week or two, and then not feel like they're getting any results for the next month or a couple months. So we have to pay attention to that. Because just because we don't see changes happening, it doesn't mean that nothing's happening, right? So observe observe. Important to mention that when you're in this step and you're observing, it doesn't mean just observe your results. It means, as I mentioned earlier, observe your consistency. What have you been doing every day? What does your calendar look like? Does your calendar match your actions for the day? When I say what's your calendar look like, when we go back to the step about mind the gap and build your bridge, when you're mapping that out, those steps that you need to be taking on a daily basis, that should be in your calendar. If you have a goal for this year, by the end of this week, since we're in this session now, so anyone should be able to look at your calendar and see what you're going to be doing daily throughout the year. You don't have to fill your calendar for the year, but you need to have your calendar filled at a minimum for the week, preferably for the month. And yes, things will adjust on the fly, but if something's not if you don't have some way to schedule your actions and hold yourself accountable, you're doing yourself a disservice, because we are far more likely to accomplish something and actually do something when we've taken the time to write it down, map it out, and actually schedule it in our calendar. So when I say observe your actions and observe your outcomes. It's both. And then from there, you can adjust. Wow, where have I missed my workouts? Where have I not been marketing as consistency? Where have I not been following up with my contacts or my leads? How have I not been interacting with my team as much as I said I was going to interact with them so that my leadership can be more effective? How have I been at home with my family? If your goal has something to do with your home life, your relationship with your spouse, how have you been consistent in your communication, in your demeanor, in your emotional control? There's so many different things depending on the context of what your goal is to pay attention to. And this is where humility plays a big role. Because yes, my hope is that through this conversation, this session today, you get a lot more clarity and you feel a lot more confident and you feel like you can accomplish these things that you want to accomplish with less frustration. But when it comes to a big part of this being a success for all of us is having the humility to look and say a week from now, a month from now, and say, what have I really been doing? And more importantly, what have I been consistent at doing? Because that's where it's going to pay off. Once you observe your actions, then you can honestly observe what the outcomes have been so far. Then you can make adjustments and then repeat the process. And when I say adjustments, for me, I mentioned earlier when I was, when I was training for the half marathon a while back, one of the adjustments I had to make was to the way I was running. I started developing, especially early on when I started training for this half marathon, I started developing horrifically painful shin splints. And I mean, it didn't take much to observe that was happening. It was screaming, my body was screaming at me, but I had to make adjustments. I could have just decided, you see, I should have known big guys can't run. I'm 6'4". I can't run a half marathon. But no, I started reading, making some adjustments, reading about shin splints, what they were, how to help them heal, and how to prevent them from happening again. And guess what? I did. Within a couple of weeks, last time I had a shin splint was years ago. It just doesn't happen anymore because I was willing to observe my behavior. I was willing to have the humility to acknowledge that I was doing some things wrong and I needed to make some adjustments. It was just learning. It wasn't about, there was no deficiency in me as a person. It was a skill I needed to get better at. And I can promise you that that's all it's going to be for you. Whatever your goals are for this year, when you're not getting the results you want, or if you're getting results that seem that they might be negative, going the opposite direction, have a little humility, patience, see what's going on, what you're doing, what you're not doing, and find ways to make some adjustments. And a big part of this humility is patience, because sometimes we have to be willing to give it some time to see if it's actually working, right? I mean, marketing, if you start a new marketing campaign and you wake up tomorrow morning and you haven't had a new sale yet, does that mean your campaign was no good? No, of course it doesn't. These things take time. You have to give yourself enough time to get enough data to decide whether something's working or not. And that's where it's really important to have good resources, because a lot of your resources are going to explain those types of things for you and help you understand what to expect, what not to expect. Let's jump through. Number 7 is really important. I know we only have about 8 minutes left here, but I'm going to get through these. As promised to get us wrapped up by 12. I want to be respectful of your time. Invest in a coach and mentor. And that's going to mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And the reason I say that, reason this is so important, look, 99% of respondents that were surveyed by the ICF said that they were very satisfied, or at least partially satisfied, that they engaged in coaching. Even more than that for me is when I look at the people, so many of the people I admire, and I mean this, both people that I know personally and I consider friends and colleagues, and people that I've never met in my life that are the best actors in the world and athletes in the world. The one thing that's in common in almost 100% of those cases is they have personal coaches. And I don't just mean, pro athletes have a coach of their team. I mean, people that are best in the world at what they do, they have someone, a coach, a mentor that they go to get self-critiques and make the micro adjustments that will change their outcomes. Coaching is an investment. It is such a powerful investment. It's not just a feel-good thing. And this is where the only thing I'll say is more important than just investing in a coach or a mentor or having someone like that in your life is making sure that it's someone that you vibe with, that you agree with, that you feel a sense of connection with. I've had multiple coaches that I've invested in over the years. All of them, fortunately, were great and very skilled, but some of them I just had a better rapport with than others. And those were the ones I continue to invest in, and still to this day, I invest in that. But I can promise you that if you're serious about being the best in the world at what you want to accomplish, or if you're serious about becoming the best of who you can be, just as an individual, invest in coaching. And it is I know there are some people that when they hear this, they say, look, my paycheck goes to my bills. I don't have extra money to invest in a coach. When I say invest in a coach or mentor, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to pay someone. Yes, of course, if you want personal one-on-one coaching and mentoring with someone who's a professional, sure, yeah, that's going to cost funds in varying amounts for a variety of reasons. But you can invest in a coach by subscribing to a YouTube channel of your favorite fitness trainer and just watch every single one of their videos and learn from them. If you are looking to improve your business, then you can hop on YouTube or do a Google search for some business mentors and just follow their free information or buy their book. This look, I don't have this up here on the screen to tell you to open up your wallet and start paying people money that you don't have or you don't think is necessary to invest. That's your personal decision. However you decide to do it though, you do need to have a coach or mentor, someone that you can follow along with, and you can at least self reflect to see where you are in the process. Ideally, yes, it'd be great to at least get into a group coaching or mentoring program so you can get direct feedback from someone who knows who you are, knows what you're working on, knows what you've been doing, and you can share your results with them, your challenges with them, and get feedback to make bigger progress. I hope that makes sense. Uh, and by the way, going back to coaching, the research is unquestionable because there are so many different studies that report increased levels of confidence, self-esteem, overall well-being just from having a coach. It is not just a feel-good thing to do. It will improve your problem solving, your communication, your decision making, having that direct feedback. Um, that's all. I'm going to leave that at that. Number 8, schedule your learning. I mentioned earlier, I made a comment about being able to check your calendar. One of the things that I see as a common mistake people do, especially this time of year, it's New Year's, everyone's excited about their new goals. Uh, and for the most part, most people like you're here watching this live with me and you're gaining information. But what I see happen a lot is someone will start the year like ready to go with this excitement and they hit the ground running. They watch live events like this. They read the books, they get the resources. Maybe they get a coach, maybe they get a coaching package for 3 months and they have somebody guiding them along. But then 3, 4, 5, 6 months go by and things start feeling a little stale. They don't have they don't have new information coming in. They're just they get into, as we all do, get into a routine and just start doing the same things over and over again. Scheduling your learning ensures that you will constantly have new information coming in. And that scheduled learning could include learning from people online that you respect and admire. It could be getting a stack of books or getting them in your Kindle and having them scheduling time to read daily and or weekly, at least on a Monday through Friday basis. Have time in your schedule to continue learning as you go towards your goals. And what I mean by that specifically is don't just be satisfied with gaining a lot of new information in January and just hitting the road and thinking that, okay, I've learned as much as I could, now I'm going to go. No, we have to commit to being lifetime students. One of my first pieces of identity for myself in all contexts is I always consider myself a lifetime student because I'm never going to know anything. And if the day ever comes where I decide I'm not going to learn anymore, I know I'm going to have problems. So please schedule that time in your calendar as you work towards your goals for the year. Respect yourself enough to schedule time. Set some time aside, whether it's a half hour a day or maybe an hour, hour and a half every couple days through the week. Whatever fits best for you in your context. The point is for this to be enjoyable. So if you're going to read a book from someone you want to read a book from. If you're going to watch videos, make sure it's from somebody that you actually like listening to. This should be an enjoyable process. You're achieving these goals because they're important to you. So you owe it to yourself to make it enjoyable, make it fun. Number 9, leverage your community. If you don't have a community of like-minded people, get one. If you have business goals, join a group of business people that are working to build their business just like you are. That could be Facebook groups. That could be group coaching programs. It could be groups on LinkedIn. You can hop in and see which of those are active and work for you. Or you can join a private community that many coaches offer, many people offer. Whatever you do, get into a community where people are thriving and looking to achieve things just like you are. We tend to live up to the expectations of our peer circle. So having a community isn't about just feeling good and, oh, these people are just like me. It makes me feel better. No. it raises our performance. I do a lot of the talks I do. I talk about building teams and team leadership and team cohesion and team performance. I spent a lot of years in high stress team environments, and I can promise you, the more committed your team is, your community is, the more committed you will be, and you will get help from your community. I know it's 12. I want to wrap this up. 3 quick actions to take immediately. Please review these 9 items. If you happen to be watching this on LinkedIn Live, this is going to be recorded so you can review it and replay it. Um, if you want to copy this slideshow in PDF format so you can refer to these 9 steps that we went over, just shoot me a quick message saying, please send the goals slideshow. I'll send it right to you. Spend an hour reviewing and mental mapping what this is going to look like for you this year as you achieve your goals. And then, as I said, I can't stress this enough, choose the right coach, mentor that is right for you, that you're going to actually enjoy working with. If you want some ways to work with me, if you've decided on one-on-one coaching, you can text me. That's my number up there, 239-217-7434. I will send you a link so you can schedule a session at a minimum to go through these goals. And please, I'm going to ask you as a courtesy, if you know you're not going to, you're not really decided or convinced about coaching, take some time, as much time as you need before you text me or call me. If you're going to text or call, my point is I don't have to convince someone why coaching is important before they call. That's all. Anyone's free to make their own decisions. But if you want to reach out to me to have a session with me, please do. 239-217-7434. You can get it scheduled, and we will get you booked, and we'll meet together and work on what you're working on this year. I'd love to help. Number 2, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a keynote speaker, virtually or on site. I'm actually on my way to Taiwan for my next engagement shortly. If you need someone to do a inspirational keynote for your organization or team, please reach out to me. You can go directly to my website, aaronkeithhawkins.com. You could also text me at that same number. My main keynotes are about leadership, connection, success mindset. I have a lot of my master's degrees in leadership. If you want to talk about possibly having me speak with your organization to help your team, your executive staff, your sales team, whatever your context is, reach out to me and we can figure out whether working with me would be the right thing for you and would be best for your organization or not. And lastly, most easiest, if you haven't received a copy of my book yet, I'm giving it away for free, The Art of Trust and Influence. And I mean actually free, not one of those, I'll give you my book for free if you pay $20 for me to ship it. I promise I'm not doing that. You can go to aaronkeithhawkins.com/trust and sign up there. I'll send you a digital copy of it at absolutely no cost to you. Most important of all, thank you so much for investing your time with me today, for trusting with your time. I pray and hope that it was worth it. Please, if I could beg you for anything, it's feedback. What did you love hearing? What did you want to hear more of? What's a topic you would love to hear me talk about? Even if it wasn't something that we talked about today, send me a message on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. I promise to get back to you. And I appreciate your time and your effort. And I'm proud of you for being here. I hope you're proud of yourself. The fact that you're here put you in a category that a lot of people don't fall into. You've actually invested your time towards something that's important to you, and I hope this session will help you get there. Can't tell you enough. I love you. Appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon. I'll be doing more of these, so stay tuned. Talk to you next time.